stations hearing gathered. And so, without wasting time, let me welcome to the podium the Member of Parliament for Ejumako Enyan Isiam, the leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament, the Honorable Dr. Kasil Atoforsen. Thank you. Friends from the media, I would like to extend our warm compliments to all of you for your presence here this afternoon. This engagement, as we have been told, has been necessitated by the discussions surrounding a legislative instrument, an ally, that the Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia's NPP government is desperately attempting to introduce in Parliament, which has a very far-reaching implications to the people of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, the said legislative instrument, the export and import restrictions on imposition of selected strategic products, Regulation 2023, seeks to give a minister responsible for trade and industry the sole prerogative and unfettered power to grant licenses to any person desirous of importing into the country some essential items numbering about 24. These items are as follows. Number 1, rice. Number 2, poultry. 3, frozen cat and offal of fowl. 4, animal, vegetable, and coconut and palm oil. Margarine, fruit juice, soft drinks, mineral water, ceramic tiles, corrugated paper and paper boards, mosquito coils and insecticides, soaps and detergent, motor cars, iron and steel, diapers, polymers, which is plastic and plastic products, fish, sugar, clothing and apparel, biscuits, canned tomatoes, and aluminium products. As expected, these ill-conceived regulations have faced stiff resistance from the NDC members of Parliament, the minority in Parliament. Indeed, we, the NDC minority, have not been alone in this endeavor, as the business community and other well-meaning Ghanaians have joined us in opposing these restrictions, which clearly do not bode well for the people of Ghana. Indeed, the Joint Business Consultative Forum, comprising reputable organizations such as the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, Food and Beverages Association of Ghana, FABAG, Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Chamber of Automobile Dealership Ghana, and the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, argue that the LI, if enacted, would have a serious detrimental effect on their businesses. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, let me make this clear, that in principle, the NDC is not against any legal regime or policy that seeks to protect indigenous businesses by regulating imports. What we are vehemently opposed to or against is a law that seeks to confer unfettered discretionary powers on a single individual, in this case, a minister responsible for trade and industry, to issue import licenses and to restrict the quantity of certain imports into the country without any checks and balances. Such laws often breed corruption and cronyism and can easily be abused to create a monopoly for some few individuals. As it is often said, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, simply put, the proposed import restrictions regulation of the failed Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government seeks to grant unchecked discretionary power to a Minister for Trade and Industry to solely determine whether or not to issue an import license to a person and to restrict the quantity of certain imports into the country as he sees fit. Unfortunately, the regulatory framework proposed by the LI is not only opaque, but can lend itself to arbitrariness and abuse. This clearly is going to be an avenue for distortion and corruption if allowed to stand. And that is why the NDC minority do not believe that this should be allowed to stand. Also, the proposed regulation seeks to impose both an application fee and a license renewable fee on prospective importers. This will, in no doubt, impose an additional burden on businesses which are already wobbling under so much pressure from several draconian tax measures and bad policies of the insensitive Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia government. Even after one has fulfilled this requirement and paid the necessary application or renewable fees, the decision to issue or renew an import license rests solely with a minister responsible for trade, who can potentially use such unfettered powers to frustrate businesses that he perceived to be his or the party's political opponent. Additionally, under the proposed regulation, a Minister of Trade and Industry will constitute into himself a judge in his own case, a judge in his own cause. Ladies and gentlemen, in the sense that the same minister who seized with the power to grant, renew, or cancel an import license is equally clothed with the power to unilaterally determine a review application against his own decisions. This arrangement is clearly against natural justice. It is instructive to note that currently, Ghana does not have any significant local capacity to produce some of these strategic products listed under the first shadow of the proposed legislative instrument, such as sugar, among others. Neither has the government outlined any specific interventions or incentives to promote the local production of such products. This completely belies the government's claim that the proposed regulations are intended to promote local production of the affected product and conserve foreign exchange, as has been argued by the government. More importantly, the proposed regulations gravely offend some international trade treaties and protocols that Ghana has signed up to. Ladies and gentlemen, let me also say that this very ally breaches the IMF agreement that Ghana has recently agreed with the International Monetary Fund. That says clearly that Ghana, within the course of the program, cannot sign on to any import restriction policy. For instance, the regulation in its current form clearly also contravenes the World Trade Organization, WTO, Trade Facilitation Agreement, particularly on quantitative restrictions. This could lead to serious retaliatory action by our trade partners and eventually affect exports from Ghana, like that of our cocoa and other things that we export out of Ghana. It should be obvious to any discerning mind and Ghanaian that the excessive discretionary powers that the law grants a minister responsible for trade and industry will afford him or her the opportunity to subject the issuance and renewal of import permits to cronies or state capture. If this law is allowed to pass, a Minister of Trade will be handed a blank check to deny those who are not in his good books. So if the minister thinks that you don't look pretty or nice, he can decide to refuse you licenses and create powerful trade cartel who will monopolize the importation of this essential product. And I'm not sure no one here wants the minister to create these cartels in our economy, and these cartels, if created, will not be a good news for ourselves. This has the potential of creating supply chain disruptions and shortages of certain goods in the economy, and its concomitant effect on inflation of certain goods and services. The NDC holds the view that the right to import essential commodities into the country cannot be limited on the whims and caprices of a Minister of Trade and Industry, his deputy, or a certain import permit committee, which will be constituted by the minister responsible for trade under Regulation 2 of the proposed regulations that is before Parliament. The alternative view of the NDC on this matter is as follows. 1. Where there is credible data exists to show that Ghana has adequate domestic capacity to produce a particular product, or where the consumption of a product has been proven to be injurious to public health or safety, government can simply place a ban on the importation of such product into the country. For example, I've heard people saying that Yemadeɛ should be banned, and it's not good for us, and it should not be imported into our economy. The question is, if there is evidence proven by experts that it is against our health and is injurious to our health, then the government should do what is required to do, but not necessarily restricting the importation. You can equally ban it if you think that is what you should do. However, where a particular product has not been proven to be harmful to public health or safety, and there is no credible data to show that enough domestic capacity exists to meet the demand for that product, government can regulate the importation of that product in two main ways. One of the ways is to introduce a transparent quota system for the importation of certain products, as was done by the elsewhere NDC John Mahama administration in the poultry sector. During that time, a quota system requires a prospective importer of a particular product to first show proof of utilizing existing local capacity by procuring a certain percentage of his intended import volumes locally. When the elsewhere NDC John Mahama government realized that the local poultry industry has the capacity to meet about 20% of our local consumption, the then government introduced the 40% rule in the poultry industry in the year 2014, which required that poultry importers to produce at least 40% of their total stock from local poultry pitches. Let me take this again. In 2014, what we did required poultry importers to purchase at least 40% of their total stock from local poultry farmers. This policy was implemented alongside the Ghana Broiler Project and other incentives for local poultry farmers aimed at enhancing the domestic production of poultry. Another mechanism that can be used to regulate import with the aim of protecting the indigenous industry is the imposition of tariff and non-tariff measures on certain products to encourage the patronage and consumption of locally produced commodities. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a known fact that trade volumes at our port have dropped drastically under the failed Akufo-Addo and Bawumia government due to high duties and taxes. Similarly, smuggling of goods out of Ghana to other neighboring countries has intensified due to the porous nature of our borders. The obnoxious legislative instrument before Parliament will exacerbate these problems and negatively impact livelihood and the economy as a whole. As you may be aware, the insensitive Akufo-Addo Bawumia government is also seeking to introduce a new raft of draconian tax measures on the already impoverished Ghanaians on the back of the 2024 budget. These tax measures, which are currently before Parliament, include the following: an imposition of VAT on non-life insurance such as motor or car insurance, marine insurance, fire insurance, building insurance, goods in transit. Let me take this again. You may be aware that before Parliament, there's a number of tax measures already that the minister responsible for finance, representing His Excellency the President and the Vice President Alhaji Bawumia, has submitted to Parliament for approval. And some of these taxes include the following. They are imposing a VAT on all non-life insurance, such as motor cars. So if you are going to buy car insurance, you pay VAT. If you are buying marine insurance, you pay VAT. If you are buying fire insurance, you pay VAT. You pay VAT on your building insurance. You pay VAT on goods in transit and many more non-life insurance. He has also imposed 5% VAT flat rate on residential and commercial real estate. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghanaians should get ready to pay 5% VAT anytime you buy a house from an individual or a real estate company. Going forward, if this law goes through, the VAT before Parliament goes through, if you intend to buy a house, get ready to put 5% aside for President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia. Because every house you buy going forward, you will pay 5% VAT on the quantum of the amount that you are supposed to buy. So if it is 1 million Ghana cedis house you are buying, you will pay 50,000 Ghana cedis to President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia. He's also imposing taxes on textbooks, VAT on textbooks, exercise books, newspapers, publications, architectural plan, scientific and technical works, magazines, periodicals, calendars, trade catalog, price list, diaries, and stationery. So including pens, stationery including pen and paper, you pay VAT on them. They are also imposing VAT on domestic air travel. So if you are going to Kumasi, Takoradi, or Tamale, and you decide to use aeroplane, you will pay VAT on those products, Passion, Our, whatever. All domestic airlines will now attract VAT. Imposition of VAT on domestic transportation of passengers by road, rail, and water. So if you charter a car, get ready, you will pay VAT. There's no strong railway system, but it says the rail and water as well. You end up paying VAT. There's an increase in stamp duty rates across board. Again, there's a new tax measure also before Parliament called Excise Duty Amendment Bill, and the new Excise Duty Amendment Bill seeks to diesel and petrol and registered at the DVLA, 100 Ghana cedis, no exemption. Ambulance, the car, including hers, all of them, you end up paying that kind of tax. This particular tax, as I've mentioned, is regressive, since all vehicles will pay the same amount of 100 Ghana cedis per year, whether you are using a V8 articulator or an Uber car. And that is how regressive the tax is. Why should someone that has the money and is able to buy V8 pay the same 100 Ghana cedis as the person that is using Okada or Prajia or Yellow, okay, or Mahama Kandu? I mean, clearly it shows that this tax is nothing but a very regressive tax. Furthermore, the bill seeks to introduce excise duty of 100 Ghana cedis per ton of carbon dioxide emission by industry. So what this simply means is that if you are a company and you produce smoke, carbon dioxide smoke emission, they'll come and measure it. I don't know how they will measure it. And if they measure it, a ton of the emission, you pay 100 Ghana cedis. 1 ton, 100 Ghana. So if you produce 50 tons, 50 times 100, 50 times 100. So they will come there and measure the smoke, the wusuo. If the wusuo is that big, then they will give you 100 Ghana cedis. And probably they will use a size like that. And if it's that big, 100, that big, 200, another big, 400. So depending on the size of the wusuo you produce, you will be paying tax of 100 Ghana cedis per ton. My colleague, Honorable Adongo, says this is a Nwusuo tax. Nwusie tax. It's a tax for smoke. And so be careful. Don't generate smoke in your bedroom, else you end up paying Nwusie tax. Ladies and gentlemen, amid all these taxes, it is our considered view, we the NDC, that these regulations are regressive, counterproductive, and have the potential to breed corruption, just like the days of the essential commodity and price control. And I'm sure most of you here, you may not have witnessed the price control regime those days, including myself, but we may have heard of it. And the days of Kalabule and what it did. President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia seeks to bring Kalabule back into our economy. Clearly, the proposed legislative instrument on the import restrictions is completely unwarranted and unwelcome. We in the NDC cannot welcome this legislative instrument. Already, importers and business community have amply demonstrated how these regulations lack broad consultation and consensus. We therefore call on government to withdraw these regulations immediately and broaden its engagement with all key stakeholders. We call on the Trade Union Congress, the TUC, the civil society organizations, the CSOs, traditional authorities, the clergy, such as the Catholic Bishop Conference, the Apostolic Fathers, and all clergy, chief imam, and everyone else, and all progressive forces to speak up and join the NDC minority to reject this obnoxious import restriction regulation in the supreme interest of our dear country. Colleagues, we can't fight this alone. We in the NDC in Parliament cannot fight this alone. The Constitution is clear on this matter. Before we torpedo this legislative instrument through parliamentary process, it will require 2/3 majority to overturn it. The NDC members, our number is 137. We do not have 2/3. And so we alone cannot stop this. So far, we have used strategies in Parliament to curtail delaying. It cannot continue. All what we are asking is that we can't do this alone. So join us, our brothers and sisters from the media, join us. Let us stop this obnoxious legislative instrument that seeks to ransack and create opportunity for others to make money. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So if you have questions in English, this is the time for you to ask the questions before we move to the key presentation. Do we have any questions in English on leader's presentation? If you do, you tell me your name, your media house, and you keep your question crisp. All right, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mawina with TV3. So the minority leader mentioned that so far they've been able to stall the laying. What is the current state now? Because based on calculations, it appears that if it is laid now, the constitutionally mandated 21 days, they might not reach. And we know also yesterday there was an engagement with...
It might not reach? I don't understand.
It will not meet the 21-day constitutional, based on the calculations for the House to
rise. Yeah. But it will obviously resume.
Well, that's one of the opinions out. The reason for which there's a suggestion that the trade minister might not lay. But outside of that, he says that he wants Ghanaians to join in the support in rejecting this bill. Is it the case that there aren't any laid down processes to which, as the minority side with their numbers, they can tackle this head on, outside of the technicalities that he's mentioned, and also what the outcome of the engagement with the trade unions was yesterday as well?
So 3 questions. Thank you. Any other? Okay, so leader will address these 3. If you have a question, kindly come forward. Did you? Yeah, sure.
Prosper Kweku Selassie Akpito.
Yes.
Daily analyst and SwahiliNews.com.
All right.
I want to find out from the leader what measures are there. What gap can the public feel in order to press against this particular thing?
All right. You want specifics? All right. Okay. I think that will be all. That'll be all. Thank you. So, minority leader will deal with these questions, and then we shall move to the presentation. Thank you. Let me start with from the last question. What gap can the public fill? First, let it be noted that this bill has passed cabinet, the cabinet of President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia. Let it also be known that this bill couldn't have been submitted by KT Amon if the president and the vice president, in fact Alhaji Bawumia, does not agree to this. So it is a bill from the president and his vice president, Alhaji Bawumia. That is a fact. So what we are asking you to fill the gap is that speak out as a citizen of Ghana, someone who cares about our country. Demonstrate, shout hard for the president to hear that, please, Mr. President, this your policy is in bad taste and that it will not help our country. If you do that, the one who sent the minister, first of all, the Minister of Trade is actually operating under the license of President Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Bawumia, isn't it? And it is only his authority or their authority that the minister responsible for trade is presenting this before Parliament. And in fact, this trade restriction has gone through the economic management team meeting, because the Minister of Trade is a member of the economic management team, and this is chaired by Alhaji Bawumia. So it's Dr. Bawumia who has approved this to be laid. And so I urge you, as media men and women, I urge you, as civil society organization, the Trade Union Congress, the clergymen, please join us in shouting, let's mount pressure for the government to withdraw this, because it breaches all protocols that we have signed, the treaties that we have signed, including the recent IMF agreement. It breaches all protocols that we have actually ratified. So please, that is the gap that is missing. Oftentimes, impressions are created that it's only the NDC that should fight. We have fought enough. We have fought enough. Until you join us, we'll lose this battle. We don't want to lose this battle. Join us so that we don't lose this battle. Because the battle for the people of Ghana and not for ourselves. It's for all of us. So join us and let's fight. And then lastly, the state of the LI. As we speak, the Minister for Trade and Industry is in Parliament, trying everything possible to lay it. The reason why you can only see two of us here, myself and the ranking member for Trade and Industry, is that we want the rest to be there. So we are fighting all angles whilst we are addressing the media. The man is there trying to lay it. So colleagues must stay back and fight there whilst we fight here. So we are calling on you to join us in the fight. Because the truth is that if we allow him to lay it, 21 working days or parliamentary sitting days, this will become a law. And if it becomes a law, you need only two-thirds majority to overturn it. We don't have it. Two-thirds is about 180 something, huh? We have 137, and we have 137, so we cannot actually overturn it. And I can assure you, until we do something, the minister responsible for trade and industry will stop at nothing. He will lay this and it will become a law. In the end, Ghana will be the one that will lose, and not just the NDC. All of us will lose together. So we brought this matter to you to help us in the fight. Don't leave it to only us. We'll fight with you, and with your help, we can win it together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minority Leader. I'll do a quick summary of the presentation in P. If you have any question in P, you can ask. Our ranking member is here, and we'll share a brief word on this whole fight. He's been in the thick of affairs before we wrap up by exactly 3 p.m. And Jebusianfoa Yeshiawaha. To say the Yakandifo wo Mrashibidwem Dr. Atufosen Achichimuno. Eye nibresem intine ne Yeshiawaha. Empenyin se enibre nsoja. Enye sa ka mbehu se ye nyina ye ni ayeko. Ni nyina ne se omampenyin akufu adoni alaji bawumi abai. Omakwa akohehye emraboni bia. Omo ye de omo betumi bia se omo de bekọ mrahye bedwam na aba beye mra. Na busuafo se sa mra we yetena se de yensahye yedamri fam eya hwehan ema ne beye mra ewo Ghana ha. Ahokyere ene abenedi de ba beto omanfo so no ese wani. Nipa sa mra we ebegu won adwuma ese wonani. Nipa sa mra we ebema wonanu aduane abọ won ese wonani. Nipa sa mra we ebese wonwuma. Mra we kata hyehyɛ proye dream kankan ye de beba o my Ghana mu no. Ebe chen kalabule emre no kata hyehyɛ ne proye a ekutia o my we impuntuo. Eno nti na nne yemra hye bedwafo o mo kandifo eye Dr. Atofo se o magya yo mo bibia ho se ekon no o makubia de waso mo ye bia de kutia mra we o maye bia wo mra hye bedwam ba de ho ahia se o mo gebre ene mo nsɛmtwɔfo a mo na mo kabia o manfo nyina te mo na mo kabia ewo mu no o mo ni mo bedi sankita ho we na ye kyerɛkyerɛ nsɛm ni mu kyerɛ mo na mo so maboa ama Ghana fo ate ama ye nyina ya sɔre agina sɛ dabi emra we de eni sɛ eba so na obi bɛka sɛ emra bɛ ne ye ka ho asɛm emra ye ka ho asɛm yi obroni frɛ no legislative instrument LI na de emra yi ede ba ne sɛ emra ne nya bɛyɛ emra wa wo pɛsɛ wo de enyema bi firi amanone ba Ghana enyema ne mebubudin sa enyema no pɛsɛ wo de firi amanone ba Ghana de di kan uni kwan sɛ wo kra saa nyɛma ne ba Ghana agye sɛ wayɛ krataa kɔma soafo a ɔhwɛ dwadie so Minister for Trade na wama wo license ana permit ansa na watumi akra saa nyɛma na ba na wo apply sɛ wo pɛ permit a wobɛtua sika nti yɛbɛgye wo sika titiri die license fee wobɛtua wo saka permit no so a emre da so permit ni wu a wobɛtua sika titiri die e dia renew na permit no wo apply a ebɛkɔ nipa bɛ du ba ko nsɛm committee ba so kuo bi a minister na ayi omo sɛ omo hwɛ wo application ni mu na omo ma no ɛho afutuo omo ma no omo adwenkyerɛ sɛ committee ɛyɛ omo hwɛ mu wie na omo de omo adwenkyerɛ na omo afutuo ma minister na ɛyɛ adwenkyerɛ minister ne pa ɔbɛfa ɔpa ɔmfa obi antumi nyɛ ne hwɛ enti saa nyɛma yɛ a meba bɛbobɔ di wopɛ sɛ wodi bi ba a agye sɛ waayɛ application tententen ɔmakyerɛ nyɛma ɛwɔ sɛ wode ba nyinaa na baaso kuo na hwehwɛm ɛde ɔmadwenkyerɛ akɔma minister no hwɛ ɔmadwenkyerɛ no a ɔsɛ magye atu mɛma wo permit mepɛ a memma wo permit enyema bɛ ne yɛka ho asɛm deɛ di kan ɛyɛ mo deɛ ɛtɔ so mmienu ɛyɛ yɛmuadeɛ deɛ ɛtɔ so mmiɛnsa ɛyɛ akokɔ pɔtre ɛho nyɛma deɛ ɛtɔ so biem ɛyɛ anwa a yɛde ɛmmoa anaa vegetables aduane ayɛ deɛ ɛtɔ so mmiɛnsa margarine deɛ ɛtɔ so biem fruit juice deɛ ɛtɔ so biem dɔkɔdɔkɔ nsa te sɛ coke sprite Don Simon fruit juice deɛ keka ho nyinaa ensu a yɛ no mineral water pɛsɛ ɔde bi fra ma no ne ba ceramic tiles paper a yɛde di adwuma ɛne paper board mosquito coil ɛne insecticides kumtuntum prɛko semina ɛne powder a yɛde si nyɛma bi iron and steel nadeɛ car dealers nti eye car dealers amwo Ghana nyina sɛ wontumi fa car ma Ghana biem agye sɛ wodi mmara yi so sɛ mmara yi nya bɛyɛ mmara na wokɔ nipa baako pɛ hɔ Minister of Trade ɔna yɛ soafo ɔhwɛ dwadie so na wokɔyɛ application tententen etua sika ɛma baaso kɔ yi hwehwɛm ɛde ɔmo adwenkyerɛ kɔma no na ɔno ateki decision sɛ wɔgye tum wo sɛ fata sɛ wode car ba Ghana anaa wo nsɛm fata baby diapers fish esichire noodles chesetalia entare biscuits canned tomatoes ene enyema yede alumi aye enyema edoso bebre na saa nyema we nyina no wo apply utua ho sika na yede wo license ne ma wo kra ɛda baako minister betimi asɔre aka sɛ wayɛ bibi ama ne bu afu nti wo license no wotwam mmara no ma ne saa tumi no otumi revoke license at any time na mmara ne sɛ minister no apply for license na wamfa amma wo ana wo license ni wu na wo kwa renew na ɛno so wan renew amma wo ana wo license no ɔsɔre da kro na ɔse watwa mu a uni baabi akɔ baabi a wobɛtumi akɔ ne sɛ agye sɛ wo san so ɛyɛ review application ɛkɔma saa minister na nti minister no ɔbɛyɛ judge a ɔno abɛdi ɔno anasɛm aso sɛ wo license na watwam ana wo license na wamfa ama wo no ɛsɛ fata na ɛnsɛm fata no ɔno a na ɛbɛdi saa asɛm no abua odi wie na ɛno so wo mpena wontumi nyɛ hwee na moa mohwɛ enne Minister for Trade ya otiwe papa ya yɛfrɛ ne KT Hammond nansi oba abonse bɛka sɛ mɛmoa ne maba we wɔ Ghana yɛti kono nyansa bi anim na wohwɛ papa yi sɛ osi kasa ne sɛ osi yɛ ne ne na yɛhyɛ mmara bi sɛ di tumi bi sɛ mano a abusuafoɔ yɛnka no kora nkyerɛ wɔn sɛ deɛ ne bi si. This is the seriousness of the matter we are talking about. Obroni say power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. O di tumi we nyina kɔma nipa baako nti ɔno wohwe ne yere ne wanhwe ne yie kura ono wasem ukoje ne girl ono wasem wohwe wanim na wo NDC ni ana ye CPP ni uno ne party ono wasem baso kuoi omo baba benya tumi a omo kasa fa webra ansa ne ama license a wo betua wo bosia kura wo ba akọbọ no wetua enya sa license no onsanka enya sa wo ko renew a onsanka wo license no ko etimi gifru nsem enti asemo ya asemo fa ye nyina ho hwe nipa e wo Ghana omo de mo ba Ghana komakola komalata kokejetia ene mu nyina nipa ba ko na e ba be kire se wo benya license akokra mo aba na wo nya license. Now it is not only about the license who at the corner wo kwa akode kwa akoba no ma wo license ni mpo a ne dodo a wo betumi di aba no so no na be kire enti emo no betumi akasa wo mehwe wani mu a wonye emo no one container ntimi mfa de chance amba ohwe wani mu a wo se wo talia no wo 3 container enti ni party fo a wo betumi di 20 containers we are wo de ba ko. That is even if they give you the license. Emra we emra yemu bi eni fie yenti bi mpanyinsem da se bi mpreduasa tetenimpo anaga na nko nanim sei e maka bi ma minka bi enyina sei na sojafo di enso a na ye wo kalabule no na entesa enti se yamakwan ma de we ekoso a de di kan ye di dream project kankan ne krono na eba ko nipa kakra bi na tumi na kodi omunsem omoka se fasika bra no wanfa ma wonya bi de etoso mienu ebemma nipa kakra bi anya tumi e de asesa nipa hyebre e de ditemi obi anu aduane adenti ene wo se ye yesa adenti ne wo se ye ma ho kwan ma emrabo ni bi sei eba na hyehyee enye NDC amanyo kuonko a ene ya sori etia Ghana Union of Traders Association Gov't for omakasa etia Fabag for a Food and Beverages Association of Ghana almost we ye hyehyee bonia edi musuo oyene ene ahokyere e de ba beto Ghana for so Importers and Exporters Association exporters omu nyina asemre enye afa Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders omo clear nyema wo port omo semre eyemrabone Chamber of Automobile Dealership Ghana omo de car seba omo so omuku omo do omo so semre nye ena munti ha ye Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry che say ekuo ba kwa wo Ghana omo de e ba mfi bidwuma omo da no omo ye saade na no e wo Ghana omo mpo na aban ne sie se wo ye mra we ama omo no omo se mra we di adabraka ye gitumu a enye ye but e kamia ye se sankoko nyina de petition koma parliament no omu nyina o mate ena obi ehwe de ono abo ato forcing ene ono abo Suleiman na Yusuf ene NDC mrahye bedwafo be yehu demonstrations a ekoso yehu kasadia ekoso because nipa bebre ntie ena nti ne yefa sa akonya we so amansem trofo matibi na ye nyina ya sori agina because to me a minister eni alaji bawumia de yesa hyehyee boni eyeye ne de mawo na se yenyina ye kan ho bom ne yesem mra we ye mra boni ye mpene so a ye bedi nkunim mo kai new parliamentary chamber aban we ye so obesi ya no ye den on social media ka say drop the chamber they drop the chamber and self-futu nene Dr. Atofos ni NDC amanyoku ye de magana fo nyina enka se emfa wo ho because e bia na wotomo woton indomie woton noodles woton semena ibi woton nyema amabobo din wadwuma ne ye ba beje afiri unsem enisi yetena ho ema sa amra we eba na de eyeya na abufu kranti a yeye sansentro nhye mu ni se aban ne den hyehyee boni we ba de ahoche ba beto ye so no at the same time ye ni boni a ye de aya alaji bawumia wasanso akukyire emra ebura duasa agu nkrata so a odi akomra hye bedwemu a ye ne mo kasei omo ye de mo betumi bia se dole kian ne ken emra no mbe passe na mra no ebi ne de ye minority leader ebobo so se enei aban no e de VAT ba ye de ba beto insurance so Insurance, any life insurance. They say, oh, insurance for your car. Trot drivers, Uber drivers, taxi drivers, private cars. Mo kwa kutuya ehun VAT. O kwa koye insurance for ufie ubetuya. Enyeme bi e na wo pese wo insure ubetuya ho VAT. We ye mbra foforo a aban no ba womia edeba. Aban ya wode hyehyeye bo no yibe ya. Ene ya mene mo kase wasan so the VAT aba on adan ya yesisi ni Ghana etonton rent. Tie na wo kwa ko rent real estate efie bi ana wo kwa ko to efie bi a efie ne buo na wo betua ni nyina 5% aban na je. O rent so a 5% we rent tax. Inti wo rent na wo tua no say 10,000 na nado or je 500 Ghana cedis 5 million. Rent VAT no. O koto dan 1 billion a emu 5,000 ye 50 million sikada da no waje. If you want $10 will crew, then omo ka omo bo ansa no matimi esi dan aton. Dan no kwasi ebesi wache. Say what the besia na esi dan na. Besia no kra hunsi hu we ebe wew. Na wo ton dan ni wi a, say na wo benya. What ton dan no $500,000 a. Aban ne say obejo 5%, which is $25,000. Can you imagine this? Enya no nko. Efri titi ayeye VAT ye wonyeme bia aban se ye pesika de aban pesika ye mpuntu obenye sika bia ni sika sebi mpanyin se kom de wa na no nkyere se fa nsam yenu didi enu ti yeye VAT mra ne nyema bi wo ho a ya mfa VAT anyeden anto so because anyema ne nyema ewu hia obi ehia bi enne alaji bawomi a oni akufu ado abedi asumfie nsumuni omanye sika cha aban bia abo besia cha aban bia omampanyi mills omampanyi mahama efie nwotwe ukeka sika omunya ye nyina bomu a 271 billion cedis alaji bawomia ne akufu ado mfie nsu omanya 1 trillion ene ekire anso omadi sika ni nyina wi ama ene Ghana ye kakra ye ntumi ntua omu wie ya omo se nyema ye ntua so VAT no ene de omo beje ye VAT enti exercise book a otoma wo ba ene wo betua VAT no e 15%. Exercise book, textbook ya de be man ko dai 5 years ni since ye the new curriculum by aban fa di nko e de awofo kwa akoto no so a o de VAT atoso newspaper for am wa chronicle for graphic for daily guide munyina enquire munyina ya de VAT beto so 15%. Na VAT no kure ni won newspaper na ye to do say ne san so the 15% e ba beto so. This is why we must rise up. It's about all of us. Publications, books. Just obi ebe sini dan a why architectural drawing, why in the drawing say we na me de ba be sini dan no. Drawing no so about we so beje VAT. Drawing, architectural drawing, sir. Scientific and technical works. Magazine, I know they mean say na be aka ni twimpo. Calendar crowd would be bow them and will be to VAT. Calendar. Now would they check it date calendar. Open diary, I will be trim. Mansi and I catch a phone that they be mukita diary will be to VAT. Pen will be to VAT. A4 sheets will be to VAT. Paper will be to VAT. Stapler crown, stapler will to VAT. 15% stapler. Office in Yema, you did your new menu. Yes, I say my bomb mine chrono sikanasa. IMF for $600 million and Masikana Santezeno, Mukuya Kosro, Namudia reform appropriate when I just said Yaka Yubutum in Amazon Swafana. Bonnet Bain and Yadia Alaji Bawumia. Alaji Bawumi or what position, Gina Simpius say, Montua Bamaye, Nami Muvu Ghana from taxation to production. And ne or the VAT at Wapeteso. A Pioka cra. Emrantie ahuchire we mu nyina mo bere rewem e de ahwe mo hafa no so eno so VAT ye ensa e beba nyina snap nyina snap spirit so snap the spirit ye de 20% atoso alomo bitters ye de 20% oh sansa we nyina abuziofo flight a obefa say na wutu kwan akosunwane tamale takrade ana wo bankan Kumase say ye hour say ye passion say ye dean local flight nyina so 15% ye de atobo no so and then we try local flight back wa hwene bo hwe be bia local flight bo adru na ye san so de 15% e ba beto so. These are the same people of opposition most of them TV that say ye ba be tax domestic flight. These are the same people. Abusuafo say ofa car is the transportation of passengers by road. Ofa car and also ye be Gov't. Yes. Oko chata passenger car bia na wa and also so obitua VAT. And I ka some duty the na leader ka no. The o kire ne say and ade bia wo beto. An agreement bia wo be sign, contract bia wo be sign, lease bia wo be sign, ade bia wo beto e wo say wo de call lands commission ko register bia. And ade ko aban bi asoye bi e ko register bia. And also so stamp duty no ya tutum boom 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 boom. Omuwe ye nenye no nko omo se car se wo Ghana nyina obi e ba betua to titi sika no 1 million enu ti wo car no se ye trotro se wo di ye Uber se ye private car mo ba mi hu se bi no mutwi car mu nyina se ye Okada se ye Mahama Kandu se ye Pragya se ye Aboboya se wo car no eyusu petrol and diesel there ye je 1 million titi sika ni mu afibia no mu wi a omo se ngusie omo a omo produce ngusie e wo Ghana so ye behwe wo ngusie no dodo na no so ye de twa to the amount enti ngusie no 1 ton bia e 100 Ghana abusuafo areho asefem taxation to production for asem ne yeken Alhaji Bawomia asem ne yeken ndi ye be measure ngusie ne te se de leader kan ye na ye se ngusie no ye hwa ye be 50 tons it 100 times 50 5,000 Ghana cedis se wo se wutua adien oman ya mo se ye nyo ohia man enyo man penye kufo na ka so man nyo ohia man ya mbobo dodo ye tisika so de e kom de. And then what tax ya je tax e-levy mode ba mo se ye tua e-levy wi a akobam uti ye oya e-levy wo ye funu ye oya e-levy wa wo pe kwan e-levy wa wo pe hospital e-levy ye tua mo da so je ye covid levy be si ne ni nyina nsum di enwusie tax e na be so mu di na wa we na ntwie na wa me a kusinam de na kusinam be ya ma ho enti abusuafo areho na ensem ni nyina nkamfu ano de ye ka ne se sa hyehyeye ye omodi be ela ye omodi be ya keti ha mo nani abresa na busuafo yeso pese ohun obi suban amane tumi papa ye onya meye minister kra mahu enyem obi a otini bie na no didi Ghana mrantie nyina atem na ye mra we di amano no na eba be kire emo dodo e wose wode bagana fish dodo e wose wode bagana akoko dodo e wose wode bagana on e be hwe ani maka so be ba licenses and all my licenses nti mu free say e ya sem papa na de dom kume wo mra hye bedwam ni NDC amanyuko ye kan se yanko aye ntumi nye because in prempren ye 137 members pe ye wo mra hye bedwam minimo ka se ebinum ani da the MPC so say ochina budget ombegbo agu but we forget to say they are only 137 now 137 impo mo hwe eko omode koma o my Ghana mo hwe kasa omode kasa ma o my Ghana abato wonzunzanzo se ne ye ne ye wododo a nkasa anyama we nyina enka emma se ye maketi hamon o le sa de we a na ye ka sei o womra hye bedwam awo ye de obetumi bia so obele because ono wo say aban ne mra aka wo say aban ne ko position no esua aka afepe na aban ne ko position enti oni Alhaji Bawomia sika omo de be ye omo campaign no modwe ho ye mfa mra ne mra ntem na cha say ye menya tumi ne ye nya sika de aye campaign ti nani abre ade chi ade sa look at all the problems in trade which is supposed to fix emra we ni hia no we ne be manaba be ye te se mukasa e wo so we never manaba be Idi Ami wo yeso when you to me abu amanfo nyuma e dia promote ono ane cartels if this law is passed, ebedu baby no, eye abusuafoɔ bi nkoa ɛna ɔmo bɛkra mo aba Ghana. Eye party foɔ bi nkoa na bɛkra asikyira aba Ghana. Na nya asɛm yɛn ka wo se, wo yɛ mmra no sɛ na bɛyɛ anyama yɛ produce no wɔ Ghana no. Etimi akɔso ama yɛ produce no more. Na de ebiza no sɛ Ghana yɛ produce asikyire wa. Asikyire sɛ na yɛ produce. Enti asikyire da so yɛ. Emu you cry your capacity at the door saying. And unti, and I say we are just criticizing. Uti and someone, Dr. Tofos Yaka. Or say in principle, say yamra, na ya from control and yamadoa, ya crab on my muno, and this yamanuku ya fuaso. What will because I won't fuaso no, na say be won't need or mine hodo. I was say a team yes, I didn't wash share. Nanya Ghana and Kwan ye bibisa. Nigeria or my yes, I many be. But in your prime way soon was your father then a yeno. See a percent you restricted imports are the alternative number. Ube to me say, ya yen ye wo data idea dance say ban more ye wo local producers are ube to me produce maybe 20% of a more Ghana for ye dinner fidia. And I'm saying ya shemra. Wow, upe sa wodi a mobile Ghana biano. We better 20% of salmon from Ghana. Titia. And ya fe na wo ya application ya ma nipa baako. No di ama 11 member committee. No mo tena so wi abane ho no aka say emo no me ma wonfa ma. Look at the existing domestic production capacity and set transparent quotas. You can bring whatever quantity. This is a free market economy. Ghana and Saudi Arabia. So allow people to do business freely. Allow people, the officer of the Banman Famra, but I didn't be Ghana and I person promote made in Ghana. Utibisha Mrase, don't know what they bear free Ghana and a show percentage be wa ton of Ghana. John Mahama are buying AAB 2014 for poultry farmers. Mobile Maba be year few. Ama mo financiers la bianca no me no mo de portrait na ba ma se portrait dwuma no na se na president Mahama ka ho asem wa gu portrait dwuma na wie mo ko na portrait dodo a Ghana portrait farmers produce 20% of our consumption in 2016 of portrait was produced by Ghana and then about 4.5%. Wa gu na wie na aka wo injury time no and I wo de samra boni we ba na adabraka yesomu a enye ye enti wonsom oni nipa de ne Mashibidwafo ejina ho ma NDC e kan se omotwen oman yi ho politicians nyina ye nyepe ye wo papa ne ye wo bone. And we are telling you, our friends in the media, say as you know, do critical points. We have a voice, we have power as a people. If we stand together and support our minority MPs through protest, through advocacy on social media, on our various networks, ebeboa ma pressure was ebeda ban no so na sa amra boni we omototwini baby no o ma yesa onyame nka mo yeda mos